What's going on, guys? This is Jake at That Fit Friend, and today we're going to be looking at the Vivobarefoot Geo Racer Knit. So 4 things to like about this model is number 1, it's a good day-to-day wear and training shoe. So you can wear them in both settings and they look pretty good across the board. Some barefoot shoes in the market do not look that aesthetically pleasing or like they look good on a day-to-day basis, but this model is subtle, and even in the white colorway, I personally like this for just daily wear on top of my training sessions. The second thing to like about this model is that if you are trying to get super close to the ground, this is a phenomenal shoe for doing this with. So with barefoot shoes, a lot of times we'll get these removable insoles, which is also featured in this model, and personally I love that because you get super close to the ground, and in my context of barbell training and lifting, I love being able to bias my weight in my foot because we can get different adaptations by doing so. So this is a fantastic model for lifters who really want to make sure they're feeling the ground under the foot. The third thing to like about this model is just the overall upper knit. So I do think there are potentially long-term durability concerns with the knit. However, from a first few sessions and first few weeks of wearing the shoe, I have been loving the knit. It is super lightweight, super breathable, and across the board, it's very comfortable. So as you can see, we have a little bit of give here. So overall, when it comes to accommodating the width of your foot, and if you have a higher arch, lower arch, etc., this model does a really good job at doing that. The fourth thing to like about this model is that it does have recycled materials in it. So if you are worried about a shoe that is pretty good for our planet, this model is pretty great at tackling that. Plus Vivo has like their Revivo program where you can basically send them old models and they will try by Kona, and they will try to kind of revive them and put them back on the market so we don't just have the shoes ending up in a landfill somewhere. So personally, I think that's a really cool initiative, and honestly, I wish more shoe companies would do something similar to that. But now let's dive into a few cons with this model because I have found a few. So a few cons I could see folks having with this model is number 1, the price point. At a price of $170 USD, this is far from a cost-efficient shoe. Like the price hurts. I feel that in my bones, but at the end of the day, if you are going to be wearing these for training, day-to-day wear, and pretty much everything, and you just want that like all-in-one barefoot shoe and you take good care of them, I could see the price point being worth it. The second potential con I could see folks having is that if you love wearing your barefoot shoes for more agility work and versatile training, what I noticed in this model is while I love the knit as like an upper material, and generally with more knit shoes, I do really enjoy that material, this knit actually had me sliding a little bit over the lateral side of the pinky toe. And that is because the upper is so maneuverable and so stretchable that when you are jumping and having those toes drive forward, if you're doing lateral work, I did notice a little bit of overlap here. Luckily, the toe box and the sole are wide enough to accommodate that, but long term, I am curious to see if that's going to be an issue for potentially folks who do have a slight bias going more laterally in their toe box. The third potential con I could see folks having is the knit upper. So I mentioned in the pros that I love the knit, but when we have knit materials in shoes, we always have to be concerned about the long-term durability. Knits are a bit more breathable, they're a bit more lightweight, and they stretch a lot. Like as you can see, the material back here is pretty thin as is. So when it comes to long-term use, and especially with the tongue and this outer boot layer, I would say be very conscious of the overall durability and putting them on and being a bit more careful with how you're taking them off and how you're using them. If you want these to go the distance, especially for the price point, pay close attention to the upper knit and try to resist overall friction on it to make sure they're going the distance for you. What is that? That is so crazy. Maui just told me that if you click that little red button down below, it takes 2 seconds of your time and it helps the channel grow, and I'd be super appreciative. That's crazy, buddy. But now let's get back to the review. All right, so now when talking performance in this model, I'm gonna break this part into a few different sections. We'll talk about lifting, more versatile training, shorter runs, and then daily wear. Now, when it comes to lifting, this shoe is exactly what you would expect from a barefoot shoe. You are gonna get a lot of proprioceptive feedback from the ground because we do have a very wide toe box, and in this model, you can take out the insole so you can get even closer to the ground. So personally, I will do this on my lower body sessions at my deadlift days where I do wanna get literally as close to the ground as possible, but still wear a shoe. So across the board, you're not going to have an issue with stability in this model, and with the overall breathable and stretchable knit with the wide toe box and wider sole, I don't think you're going to have any issue with width at all. So even if you do have a flatter or wider foot, you should be plenty fine in this model, especially when it comes to lifting. And across the board, once again, stability is phenomenal in this shoe. Now, when it comes to versatile training, I like this shoe as a whole. However, I did mention in the cons that the upper can get a little bit stretched out when moving more laterally or jamming those toes up. So in broad jumps, for example, I was noticing that my toes were coming a bit forward and pushing this upper forward a little bit. And do note, this is very specific in nature, and realistically, like, I don't think a lot of us are gonna be training in a manner where we're gonna be having that issue happen all the time, but it is definitely worth noting. But across the board for versatile training, the shoe is pretty dang great. The upper is really lightweight. The sole is very maneuverable, so you can feel the ground really well. And if you are newer to barefoot shoes, I think this is a decent model for kind of acclimating you to that style of training with this type of footwear. When it comes to shorter runs, similarly with the versatile training, I like this model as a whole. However, I'm not gonna actually probably use them for a lot of running because I want the upper to last. I don't want it to get overly stretched out by any means. And I really want these to go the distance, especially for how expensive they are. So for running, they will work really well for you. And I think you're gonna get a lot of traction from the sole and a lot of feedback from the ground. But I'm gonna actually resist wearing these for most of my running and opt for a different barefoot running shoe when I wanna tackle more barefoot style running because of the upper in the shoe. Now, when it comes to daily wear, I actually really like this shoe. It is one of my go-tos right now for errands, walking the dogs, grabbing coffees, etc. because they don't look superly like barefoot focused. Like, I feel like a lot of barefoot shoes on the market don't look the prettiest, but these are subtle, and honestly, like, I really dig just plain black uppers because they don't draw a lot of attention. I like to be a bit more subtle with my fashion and style, so across the board for daily wear, I really enjoy this model, and they are super comfortable, especially for somebody who is just getting into barefoot shoes. I think this is a pretty good model for you. So to wrap that up, in a lifting context, this model is phenomenal. For versatile training, they work well. I would just say be very conscious of the upper, especially when doing movements where the toes are gonna be jamming into the toe box a little bit. And then when it comes to running and daily wear, they will work as well. However, with running, I would say just be conscious of the overall upper durability if you want this model to go the distance for you. So now let's answer the question, is this model worth it? At a price of $170 USD, that is pretty dang steep for a pair of shoes. I think if you are somebody who wants this shoe primarily for day-to-day wear, lifting, and maybe more casual, versatile training and shorter runs here and there, this model is worth it, and I think it will last, especially if you take good care of it. What I would say though is if you are somebody who wants to do long distance runs, you plan to wear these outside a lot to run, be very conscious of the overall durability, because I don't want the upper breaking down or stretching out on you too fast and then you coming back to this video and be like, dude, what the hell? So just be very conscious of the upper durability if you plan to use them for those activities. But if you are somebody, once again, who wants a shoe for daily wear, lifting, I think this model is definitely worth it. You get a lot out of it from those activities. So when it comes to weight and drop in this model is obviously gonna have a 0 drop because it is a barefoot shoe, and its weight comes out to 9 ounces. And as a reminder, this is a size 10, AKA a 43 model. So when talking sizing and fit in this model, you should be safe going true to size. However, I did note that there was a little bit of extra length in the toe box for me. So this is a size 10, AKA a 43 in the UK. And overall, they fit really well, but I am curious if I size down, if I would actually not have as much of that issue of the toes going over with the upper, and I would be a bit more locked down. But that all being said, you should be safe going true to size in this model. Just food for thought that if you normally err on the smaller end for your normal shoes, you may want to go a size down in this model. So we've chatted on price already in this video, but for this pair of shoes, you can expect to pay $170 USD, and I know that price point hurts pretty bad, and that is far from cost efficient. However, if you are looking for a barefoot shoe primarily for lifting and daily wear that looks pretty dang aesthetic, this model could be worth it for you. I would just stress, be very conscious of the overall durability and taking good care of them, and especially if you wear them outside, just being conscious of overall dirt accumulation in the upper, etc., and wiping them down if they ever need it to prolong their life. All right, so now let's talk about the construction in the Vivobarefoot Geo Racer Knit. Up here in the toe, we have an extended sole that comes up over like the more medial / big toe side here, which is awesome. And the upper here is reinforced as well. This is like a lightweight synthetic. I like that there's no external stitching here. Overall, I think that's a really good sign for just overall durability, especially when it comes to friction on the big toe. Once again, we have a knit upper throughout. So as you can see, we pretty much have this breathable knit throughout the entirety of the shoe. And you could pretty much see my fingers through it. And that's why I think it is so breathable and maneuverable, obviously, because it does have such a breathable focus to it. We have some Vivobarefoot branding here on the lateral side. We have some synthetic layers around here, and then on the heel we also have those synthetic layers. And then on the boot back here, we have a heel tab to help pull that shoe on. And as you can see, we have a knit boot construction back here. So as you can see, the whole shoe is pretty much this knit blend with the synthetic overlays for durability. Now making our way to the midfoot, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 eyelets. The 7th eyelet back here is for lace lock. So personally, I haven't used the 7th eyelet back here. I personally like just having the 6, and I think that's plenty enough for me. We have a tongue loop here to help lock down the tongue, and the tongue itself is slightly wide. And what I would say is that we do have that knit up here in the upper part of the tongue. Be very conscious of when pulling this on that you use both hands and not just rip on one side, so you don't have that tongue rip, because we have had issues again in the past with thinner tongues in certain training shoes and certain barefoot shoes. Making our way to the outsole here. So we have this more like hexagon texture throughout. As you can see up here on the lateral side and the medial and lateral midfoot side, we have more of this like smooth texture. Overall, this grips pretty well. These are not going to be the best for things like training on turf and wet grass. However, outdoors as a whole, this does grip the ground pretty well when you're on concrete, asphalt, and track settings. And then making our way once again to the insole. The shoe does have a removable insole, and overall the outsole, or sole for that matter, is very flexible, very maneuverable, and very thin. So I think you're going to have a lot of ground feedback in this shoe. And I love that the internal part of the shoe is finished, so if you do want to remove that insole, you don't have to worry about like standing on some awkward thready material that some shoes have. If you have any questions on this model and its construction, hit me in the comments below. All right guys, that wraps up my review of the Vivobarefoot Geo Racer Knit. If you have any questions on this model before you buy, because I know that price point is very high, hit me in the comments below or reach out to me personally, whichever you're most comfortable with. And as always guys, drop a like on the video, drop subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys in the next one.